Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting, a regularly scheduled one. Dates December 12, 2022, times 5:30 p.m. We are at 10 West State Street, which constitute the City Hall Council chambers. To call the meeting to order, I have to read this notice to the public that the Mayor and Council welcome comments from the public when we're discussing agenda items. You have to step to the mic, state your name and address for the record, limit the time used to present remarks to 3 minutes or less in order for others to be given an opportunity to speak as well. All speakers are to speak clearly and direct their comments to the Mayor and Council in general and not to any councilor specifically. It's at the discretion of the Mayor and Council to respond to those questions and comments or to have staff respond during the meeting. With those available, please join us on the Pledge of Allegiance. Very good. Roll call, please. Mayor, Council, and Administrator comments. Let me actually start that with recognition of years of service and a reminder that there's going to be a celebration for those that have been working for city boards and commissions. It's scheduled for 5:30 p.m. on this Wednesday, December 14. Tonight, we recognize some anniversaries of the following people. Matt Brodeen, 5 years with Planning and Zoning Commission. Tammy Engel, Board of Adjustment. Steve Hay, Fire Code Board of Appeals. Heidi Logan, Fire Code Board of Appeals. And Phyllis Mazur, Fire Code Board of Appeals. And Wayne Waltermeyer, Fire Code Board of Appeals. And then for 10 years of service, 2 people, and that includes Laura Eilers with the Waterworks Board of Trustees and Steve Valbrecht with the Planning and Zoning Commission. At this time, I would call for a motion to approve the consent agenda, but I've asked to...
Your Honor. Where is that ceremony at on Wednesday?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize. I did not get that in the Agenda Center. It will be at the Coliseum in the first floor rooms. So we ask that everybody please join us.
Are we going to have council comments?
Council comments would absolutely be invited. Oh, yeah, right now. Yeah, I meant to go back to that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I was thinking, well, yeah, Wednesday you can talk too, but I hadn't gotten to the mayor and council comments. Let's start with council comments, and then I'll ask the administrator if she has any council comments. You may.
I'd just like to point out a really good job of a new city website created by Alicia Hunter, our own Alicia Hunter. It's easier to find things, easier to navigate. You can look up anything you want, and it's a great improvement. Alicia, you did a really good job.
Thank you. Very good. Anyone else on the council? Okay. I'd like to announce some bad news that we heard this morning, that Nan Ryden died last night about 8 o'clock. So the family's trying to get together. I understand there may be a visitation on Wednesday night. She was one of the last grand dames of Marshalltown, truly. I met her in 1980. Because my father-in-law was running for the Iowa Senate, and she held a party for him, and I had never heard the name Ryden before, and got to meet a really gracious lady. She had 5 daughters. Her husband Rex was a partner in the firm, and between the two of them, they did about everything for Marshalltown that's imaginable. And I just needed to tell everybody about that. That's kind of tough news. Okay, I should have asked you if you had any comments tonight too. Okay. Now it's time to invite a motion to approve the consent agenda, but I've been asked to remove the following items: 4, 5, and 6, 9, and 17. With those excisions, would anybody like to move that we approve the rest of them?
So move.
Second. Very good. Roll call.
Thompson?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie-Hoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Very good. Before you start reading those quickly, Steve, would you introduce? People may have seen you on the video, but I don't think we've had you sitting up front here before. So, our city attorney is joining us in person tonight. We do have a closed session later.
I'm Steve Leidinger with Lynch Dallas Law Firm. Here as city attorney tonight. As Mayor Greer pointed out, I sometimes am a floating head or a voice that chimes in abruptly due to a little time lag there. So it's nice to actually be here in real life in real time. So thanks.
Thank you. Actually, it's the guy that always comes overdressed because I come from work. It's nice to see somebody with a tie on tonight. Thank you. Would you do the honors of reading quickly the matters that just got approved then?
Approve the minutes for the November 28th, 2022 meeting and the December 6th, 2022 meeting, and the bill list of the amount of $1,566,839.33. Approve the September 2022 financial statements. Receipt of the building permit report for November 2022. Resolution 2022-344, accepting and awarding the bid for the park stump removal in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa to CSW Services in the amount of $53,040. Resolution 2022-345, accepting bid and authorizing the purchase of a 2024 International Dump Truck HV 507 with pre-wet system for the price of $212,415 and a 2024 International Dump Truck for the price of $207,865 from O'Halloran for the use in the street department. Resolution 2022-347 to approve transferring funds for the fiscal year 2023 through September 30th of 2023. Resolution 2022-348 approving a temporary easement agreement with ITC Midwest LLC. Resolution 2022-349 approving contract change orders number 1 and number 2 for the Sidewalk Gaps Year 2 project, number SDW 20002, a decrease of $14,091.55. Resolution 2022-350 approving engineer statement of completion and accepting Boulder Contracting Sidewalk Gap Project number SDW 20002. Resolution 2022-351 approving contract change order number 5 for the 4th and Meadow Lane Storm Sewer Enhancements Project number SMW 17001, an increase of $14,039.15. Resolution 2022-352 approving contract change order number 6 for the 4th and Meadow Lane Storm Sewer Enhancement Project, number SMW 17001, a decrease of $34,500. And Resolution 2022-353 approving the Marshalltown Municipal Airport 5-year capital improvement program.
Very good, thank you. And then we go back to resolution number 4. Would you read that one, and I'll entertain a motion after you do that.
Resolution 2022-341 approving council-designated local option sales tax for the purchase of site furnishings for the future phases of downtown improvement plan and authorizing the purchase of site furnishings.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion up here.
Your Honor, if I may,
You may.
I would like to see us delay this, and at least, since we're spending city funds for this, and we probably don't need these features some for 2 years and some for probably 4 years for state and Maine. I'd like to see us put bids out to the local contractors to see if they can come up with something that would be, if they choose to submit, that would be in line with what is on the table here to be purchased. I'd like to see that those dollars stay in Marshalltown. So I would make a motion to table this.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that? I believe I left enough time going by that that failed for lack of second.
Second.
Okay, there's a second to the motion to table. I don't think that's debatable, so let's call the roll.
Schneider.
No.
Thompson.
Yes.
Walker.
No.
Hoop.
No.
Kell.
No.
Lottie
Yes.
Okay. That motion did fail, and now we can open it up for discussion about the motion itself up here. If there's any other council discussion, then I can open the mic for the public. Not hearing anybody up here, the public is welcome to jump to the mic on this one. Failing anybody standing up right now, and I don't think we have anybody online that can raise a hand. Let's call the roll.
Kell.
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
Walker.
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Very good. On to number 5 then.
Resolution 2022-342, approving the settlement agreement for 107 East Lincoln Street, Marshalltown.
Solicit a motion first.
Move for approval.
Second.
Very good. Discussion on this one?
Your Honor, I was asked to pull this by a member of the public that would like to speak on this subject.
Any other discussion up here first? The mic is open for the public.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. So it appears that 657As cost the city approximately $2,000 or more. Otherwise, we shouldn't be paying Miss Cronin $2,000 for the privilege of getting her house. It also appears she could file a no contest in court and the matter would be done and not cost us anymore. And so we're making, I guess, a deal for this property. Seems we should be we should be able to make deals for other properties, such as the one I wanted to develop. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Roll call.
Walker?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Okay, that carried.
Resolution 2022-343, approving engineer statement of completion and accepting Pillar Inc. for the Veterans Courtyard Project, number PRK 20002.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor. I asked this to be pulled, even though it says that we have a statement of completion for this project. This project is far from over. The project also has benches, plantings. The palm squares are going to be redone. Arts and Culture Alliance is going to be handling that to be a little bit more robust in what they were thinking. So I just didn't want people to think if they drive by right now that the park is done.
Thank you. Other discussion by the council? Discussion by the public? Roll call.
Kell?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Thank you. On to number 9.
Resolution 2022-346, approving an agreement to provide wastewater samples to Verily Life Sciences LLC for the Water Pollution Control Plant wastewater testing project in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa.
Any motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Your Honor, I was one who asked to have this pulled. I've just got a few questions. This one thing is completely out of the blue. I don't know that we've ever had a discussion item about this, of wastewater surveillance. How did it get directly to the consent agenda without, discussing it? I also wanted to bring it up just so people know. I don't think citizens are aware that we're planning on surveilling wastewater. It's done. If you trust everything that's going on, it's done to surveil flu, RSV, monkeypox, and COVID, I believe, are the 4 listed reasons. But we are really on the cusp, if not already there, in some pretty scary technologies that could really enhance the surveillance. I know some cities also do this to monitor drug usage, whether it's prescription drugs or whatever. I just think we should think twice about just putting this on the consent agenda and saying yes.
Other council comments? Any public comment?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I only wish to comment a little bit on the public health side for wastewater monitoring. It is absolutely done all across the nation for a variety of different reasons, and also at universities for surveillance of certain types of viruses. I wasn't really surprised to see it, and I have no further questions, but thanks.
Thank you. Other council comment? Any public comment? Roll call.
Thompson?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes. Yes.
On to the last one that was pulled, number 17.
Resolution 2022-354, approving use of Fund 360 for the 2019 GO Bond funds in lieu of local option sales tax capital funds for the Creekside Estates Street Edition.
Any motion first?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, let's discuss.
Your Honor, if I may.
You think?
I just got questions. We were going to use local option sales tax to pay for the $550,000 of the street. Is that correct?
Yes, that the original funding source for the street was identified as the local option sales tax capital funds.
And that was because we had leftover from Edgewood Extension, correct?
I don't remember the exact rationale, but there was leftover in the fund to accommodate the project.
Okay, so my two real questions are, where are the general obligation bond funds coming from that weren't already allocated? And do we have to have a public hearing since we're allocating general obligation bonds?
I will try and keep this as succinct as possible and to call on Diana to potentially weigh in on this. So this is really using 2019 bond funds, which are coming up on their 3-year life expectancy. There are still some funds that were remaining. One of the approved uses of those funds was for the street improvement program, street repairs, things like that. By not spending those funds and keeping those allocated towards basically street repairs in that fund, we will begin paying, we'll have to be repaying the IRS the difference on the interest that we are earning now, because we are earning higher interest rates now versus what the bond was borrowed at, which was 1.6%, I believe. And so that is the difference where we can't make money on bond funds. And so if you make money on bond funds, you have to pay that back to the IRS. So we are recommending moving the Creekside Estates expense, which is a real street expense that we have had since July 1st, into Fund 360 so that we use up those bond funds, which then frees up the local option sales tax capital funds to be reallocated back towards streets. So it's trying to save us money in the long run and having to reimburse the IRS for an arbitrage calculation.
Okay, so that creates the next question. So we have $500,000 that for whatever reason we did not use to repair the existing streets. So we're going to use those funds to pay for a brand new street that won't have houses on it for probably at least a year.
Actually, it's some park projects that end up getting bumped in this to a different fund, to Fund 363. And so we're essentially, I don't have the CIP up in front of me, but there was $200,000 that was dedicated towards Park 101 and $200,000 to the farmers market that was still sitting in Fund 360. And so it's really moving that purpose to Fund 363, where things exist currently. The other projects that have been funded with street money lately have come from Fund 363. So it's kind of doing a movement between multiple funds in order to find a use. But ultimately, the thing that really matters to all of you is that it's supplanting uses. It frees up the capital funds, the local option sales tax capital funds, which we're still saying would be dedicated to the street improvement program, but for future projects, not for the project that has happened in the past.
So can we agree to disagree that the real issue is we didn't spend $500,000 on fixing streets 3 years ago that we allocated for and told the public we were borrowing for?
No, I disagree with that because the capital improvement plan had 2 different park projects there. So ultimately, most of this money is coming from the fact that we didn't do the Anson Park shelter. So I can't agree with your statement.
Other council comments or questions? Public. Roll call.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to item F, motions. What's our first one of those, please?
Motion to approve a new special Class C retail alcohol license for Hampton Inn and Suites at 20 Iowa Avenue West.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Your Honor. The Hampton Inn is under new ownership, so they have applied for a new retail liquor license.
Discussion up here or out there? Anyone up here first? In the public, we rarely have anybody commenting on these. Let's call the roll.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff.
Yes.
That carried as well. On to the next one.
Motion to approve the fiscal year 2024 budget schedule, including a special meeting for January 30th, 2023 at 5:30 PM.
For approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion on this one.
Yeah, this, you'll find the attached budget schedule that we are proposing for the next year. So there is a fifth Monday in January that we are proposing to make use of as part of our budget process, with ultimately, assuming everything works out as planned, using the last council meeting in February to set the public hearing and then hold the public hearing on the budget on March 13th. This would be well in advance of the due date of March 30th, so there still would be some built-in time if we need to change things, but we do believe that we can accomplish this schedule, which is very similar to last year.
Thank you. Other comments or questions by the council? Any by the public? Roll call.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Okay, that carried. This next one might be pretty controversial.
Motion to set the last council meeting in December of 2023 for Friday, December 22nd, 2023 at noon.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
So just to tell everybody and remind everybody, this year, our city holiday is on Monday, so the council meeting will be on Tuesday, the 27th at 5:30. So this is looking at next year where we have a Monday and Tuesday that would be the city holidays. We would prefer not to kick out a council meeting until Wednesday, as there are bills to pay and other things. And so we are proposing the Friday before at noon to accomplish the last business meeting of the year.
Might be more popular than 5:30 PM on a Friday. Any any other discussion by anybody?
Oh, Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
My only concern is the noon meetings, it's harder to get the public here to those. Was any thought given to the Thursday before at 5:30?
Nope, we weren't looking at that. I think that would provide a little bit of a crunch for getting an agenda out, but might not be impossible. It would certainly be doable if that's what the council would like.
Your Honor, I'm just trying to make it controversial for you, is all.
There are some things that some people are really good at. Any other comment up here or out there? Call the roll.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
That carried as well. And on to the next item.
Resolution 2022-355, approving Amendment 1 to the Building Department Services Agreement with Vinstra and Kim, Inc.
Is there a motion to approve before we hear from staff?
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
There we go. Discussion.
Yes, Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director. What you have before you is an amendment to the contract that we have in place with Veenstra and Kim to conduct our building inspection services. We started this activity with them at the start of this year of 2022 and have been working on our building and some of our trade applications that are part of building permits throughout the year. Part of what we're looking at doing now with our last retirement in the building inspection division is kind of finalizing that piece of the trades, so the plumbing, mechanical, and also including the electrical, which has been under a different contract with V&K as well to provide inspection services for electrical. So this is just kind of wrapping all that together in one contract for all the trades as well as the building inspections, which we're currently doing. And amending that. With this, we would also be establishing essentially a trade permit, which would cover those trade, them electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and setting the percentage of the fee that the contractor takes from that to a 80% that the contractor receives, 20% the city maintains. With our building permits, we have that as a 65 split to the contractor, 35 to the city. That will remain. This will just be on the trade portion. We don't have as much review that happens on the city side on those trade permits. It's really just kind of a receipt of the application and a direct forwarding to the contractor. And as opposed to our building, we have a lot more internal review that happens. So that's the difference between those splits in maintaining those ratios. So entertain any questions that you might have.
Any council questions for Michelle or comments?
Your Honor, I do, if I may.
You may.
Michelle, when we first hired Veenstra and Kim, the feedback I got from different subcontractors was they weren't aware of it. So they kind of got caught, with some deadlines, and things. How does this contract change going to the trades? They still will submit to the city for
Correct.
everything. Okay.
Yep.
So this one will be less of a hardship on them.
I think most of the trades have already been working with them, and so a lot of them know it's coming. We've even had people asking for, do you have trade permits, or how is that going to work, knowing that we've had some changes in staffing. So I don't anticipate, there will certainly be some, that have kind of enjoyed the prolonging of this change, but I don't expect there to be any big issues.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yep.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Anybody else up here? Anybody else out there? Very good. Roll call.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker.
Yes.
Very good. That carried. Oddly enough, I met Bill Veenstra because he was appointed by the court in a case that was pretty hotly contested over in Macokota up in Jackson County. A very nice gentleman, very professional, and it didn't surprise me that the court appointed him. So, small world, you get to know some of these names. All right, resolution number 2. What's that?
Resolution 2022-356, approving the city fee schedule.
Is there a motion to approve that?
I'd motion to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Michelle Sponheimer again, Housing Community Development. So 2 of the areas on this resolution involve my department, and Fire Chief can speak to the other if need be. But as far as the building division fees, as we just discussed, the trade permit establishing those fees to go along with that for both new single-family dwellings, alterations, minor equipment replacement, as well as our commercial trade permits. So it's establishing that. Also setting the plan review fee for those activities as well, which is when we have a project that's over a $500,000 project, there's plan reviews that need to take place. That goes to the contractor for those code reviews on those plans. On the other side of things is the rental inspection fees, and this goes along with the conversations and ordinance and stuff that we have before us, and our move to go with Safe Building LLC to perform our rental housing inspections. We will be moving to have a rental registration that will continue, an annual registration fee, which we've had. However, rather than a tiered approach, which we've had in the past, it would be a straight $15 per unit charge for that. That would be maintained by the city. And then the inspection fees are based on the number of units at the property, at the parcel location. And so for a single unit, it's a $90 inspection fee. For 2 units, it'd be $90 plus $50 for the second unit, so $140. When you have a third unit through the 15th, it's an additional $20 per unit, and then there's a cap of $400 for anything larger than 16 units. And so this would only be billed at the time that the actual inspection occurs, which we're anticipating to be on a 3-year average basis. So the annual registration they would have every year to the city. The inspection fee would just be the year that they're inspected.
Questions or comments for Michelle or the chief? Any?
Good evening, Dave Ryerson, Marshalltown Fire Department. So I have 2 items on there. One of them is the annual increase from the Iowa Fire Service Alliance on billing fees for hazardous materials responses. This fee is reviewed and revised annually, and it's based off the Consumer Price Index. Whatever increases the Consumer Price Index shows, they adjust the fees for responding to hazardous materials incidents. By my memo, and hopefully we continue the trend, we haven't had a lot of big hazardous materials incidents, so I don't see a knock on wood, I don't see a big budget increase or impact. The other item on there is an administrative fee for when we do fire code inspections. The city or the fire code allows the fire marshal or the authority having jurisdiction to go in and inspect a business to enforce the fire codes. And that allows us to enter any property during reasonable hours. Well, we have some businesses that have been non-responsive to our requests to come in and inspect properties, which requires us to obtain an administrative warrant to go in and inspect the property. Well, there was no way for the city to recoup the fees to acquire an administrative warrant. So what you have in there is we are adding a fee for the administrative warrant, which would be then passed on to the business owner along with the inspection fee. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any?
Your Honor, how many businesses are not complying?
Presently, there's 30.
Okay, thank you.
So we went to an outside vendor to do business inspections. And this year we had 176 businesses that would be inspected. And remember, we were doing it on a 2-year rotation. So we did the east side of town this year, and next year we'll do the west side of Center Street. Well, out of that 176, 30 have been non-responsive to our phone calls and letters to come in and do an inspection.
Your Honor,
Yes.
have you gotten into those yet?
No. Nope.
Anybody else? Public comment?
This is just a suggestion for the fire department. Lee Botter, 401 Orchard Drive. I have a business called Botter Consulting on the south side. I did get the little card that came in the mail to do the inspection. When I called in, there's 6 businesses in my building I do not own, I rent. And I called my landlord and said, please coordinate the efforts, because I cannot coordinate efforts with 5 other businesses on doing an inspection, especially during my busy season right now. So my suggestion would be get a hold of, please, the owner of the building to do the coordination versus one business within the building to do that. So thank you.
So in response to that, we're already in the process of doing that, Lee. So what we're going to do is we are going to amend our agreement with Iowa Inspections, and what we're going to do is we're going to start working through the property owner and not scheduling through each individual business, and we'll leave it up to the property owner to spread out the inspection fee however they need to do it to recoup their money. And it'll be based off of square footage for the entire building and not each individual business within the building. We think that'll be a cleaner way to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Other public comment? Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Very good. That carried. Thanks to the staff for figuring these things out for us. Next resolution.
Resolution 2022-357, setting a special election to amend the electric franchise agreement with Interstate Power and Light Company to implement a franchise fee on electric services.
Floor is open for motion.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. All right. Discussion?
This was the direction from the council at our last meeting to bring forward the resolutions to set the special elections for a franchise fee. And so you'll see that this is for the gas franchise, or this one is for the electric franchise, the next one is for the gas franchise. We do have two separate franchise agreements with Alliant currently, so therefore to amend both of those to include a 5% franchise fee requires a special election and a question to the voters on both of those.
Questions or comments by the council? Comments by public?
Oh, sorry, for the public, Your Honor, this election, special election would be in May of next year. Is that what's proposed, so the public knows?
March 7th.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else up here? Otherwise, the mic's open for the public.
Doris Kinnick, 2020 Catalina Place. I don't know why you want to think this is a good idea, putting hardship on most people, and especially with electric and gas. The gas prices have gone up, the electricity's gone up. This is not a good time, not a good time at all. And 5% may not seem like a lot, but believe you me, it adds up. And I understand it could be lower than that, but you guys decided to go with the gusto on that. So I hope that you're supposed to be representing us. And I really hope that this is taken into consideration. And I'm not just talking for myself. I'm talking for a lot of people who are making a paycheck to paycheck. And a 5% increase on my electric bill will not be good at all, in any way, shape, or form. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Roll call.
Hoop,
No.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No,
Walker.
Yes.
Very good. That carried. We'll have that scheduled then. Next resolution, when able.
Resolution 2022-358, setting a special election to amend the the gas franchise agreement with Interstate Power and Light Company to implement a franchise fee on gas services.
For approval?
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion up here? Any discussion by the public? Roll call on this one.
Thompson,
no,
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Okay, that carried as well. Number 5 resolution.
Resolution 2022-359 of support for the City of Marshalltown application for the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funding for infill for sale housing.
Move for approval.
Second?
Very good. Discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I will be voting no on this. My main objection is I don't think this is the best way for city staff to be spending their time. We have lots of other initiatives that are going to be happening in the next 1 to 2 years. I've never built a house, but I know people who have, and it is a very time-intensive process. There's a lot of things that you have to check to make sure you get a quality product on time, on budget. I'm just really concerned that it's not going to go very well, and I don't know that we should be competing against private business either.
Other council comments?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I will echo everything that Councilman Schneider said. In my 3 years on the council, I've been told by department heads and the city administrator that we don't have time for that, the issues I've asked about, things I've brought up, but yet we're willing to take this on to be the developer for 7 properties. And again, I'll reiterate, I just don't agree with competing with the private sector. The city is in the business of doing certain things, not competing with the private sector. So if we need to give incentives to get development, then so be it, but not take over the role. So thank you, Your Honor.
Anybody else at the council level? Any public comment on this one?
Your Honor, I have a written comment that was submitted for the record. from Tom Wertzberger, 806 West Merle Hibbs Boulevard. He does ask that council oppose this resolution, questioning the city's role as a developer competing against the private sector on projects and the potential violation of Iowa Code 23A.2. He would also ask the council to explore incentivizing private developers to take on these infill projects.
Thank you. And now the mic's open.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. I don't think the city should be a developer either. There's no skin in the game. There's no penalty if you screw up. The penalty is borne by the taxpayer. I think a better use would be for the city to help other developers apply for this same grant since it's available for all developers. We help other developers get grant money for downtown buildings. There's no reason we can't help developers apply for this grant. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Mike Pins, 2512 South 8th Street. First of all, I'm just asking for a clarification because I'm not aware of the details. Could someone give me a clarification regarding the difference between 6 and 7, just so I'm not miscommenting? They both refer to infill. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Just 6 refers to the infill, right? Okay. So is this regarding the property that's on South 6th Street? Or is that a different one?
As clarification, there was a special council meeting on Tuesday where the council made a motion to bring forward what was being called Project 1, which was 7 infill lots owned by the city on mostly the north side of the community, and not to proceed with Project 2. And so we are on item 5 of the agenda currently.
Oh, okay.
To clear that up,
5
the
and 6.
the 6th Street project's dead.
It is. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
the 6th Street is off the table.
Okay. Thank you.
Other public comment on this one? Roll call.
Schneider,
No.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff.
Yes.
Okay, that one carried. On to the next item. And that's it.
Public hearing for Marshalltown Community Development and Housing Needs Assessment and review of the applications for HUD Community Development Block Grant Ratio Disaster Funds.
Okay, I'll declare the public hearing is open at 6:13 PM. Did you receive any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Time for public comments. After which we'll have staff review.
Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director. I'll just real briefly state last meeting, we did have the part of the public hearing involved the community needs assessment. That information that was presented is actually valid for a full year, and so we don't need to go through all that again. And then Marty Weimar with Region 6 Resource Partners has some information pertinent to the application at hand on that.
Marty Wymore with Region 6 Resource Partners here in Marshalltown. So this is the last of the Hugerich projects. So it's Hugerich Holdings Series 2, a project for 6 townhouse units at 601 East South Street to build for sale units. The project budget is $1,526,550. The CDBG request is $830,000. The price range for the units in the end will be roughly $120,000. The application will be submitted here by 12/31, and we anticipate funding announcements in February of '23. So this project could potentially go to construction in spring of '23 and then be completed in another 18 months or so.
Thank you. After staff review comes council comments. Are there any? Not hearing anybody shouting into the microphone. I'll declare the public hearing is closed at 6:15 PM. Entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Actually, we should probably read the resolution number 1, shouldn't we?
Resolution 2022-360 of support for Hugo Rich Holdings Series 2 LLC application for Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funding for infill for sale housing.
Move for approval.
Second, Your Honor.
Very good. And roll call.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to the next item, which is a public hearing. Would you read that one for me?
Public hearing for the status of funding update for the Iowa Economic Development Authority Community Development Block Grant Public Facilities Grant Program for the Elks Park Improvement Project.
Declare the public hearing is open at 6:16 p.m. Did the clerk's office receive any comments?
No, Your Honor.
Time for public comments. Not seeing anybody rise. Time for staff comments.
Jeff Hubbard, Parks and Rec Director. This is one of the items per our grant that we got from the Community Development Block Grant. We have to read this so it gets into our minutes so that we can get approval for funding. So I just want to give an update on the park and how we spent the money. As of 12/12/22, a large portion of the park has been graded to provide more usable space in the park for activities. Sidewalks and handicap accessible parking have also been added along with new park signage. To date, total expenses of $97,280.10 have been incurred for the project, with $63,025 being the CBDG share and $35,478.10 being the city share. To complete the project, the city will install 2 new picnic tables and 1 new grill in the coming weeks. Lighting will also be installed via Alliant Energy at the shelter, probably this fall as well. Due to the increased construction costs, the total cost to complete the project has increased since the time of the CDBG application was submitted from $82,400 to $103,925 with 57 cents. The CBD grant will still provide the $66,400, while the city of Marshalltown will be covering the remaining $37,525.57 needed to complete the project, which is also in our budget. So I just wanted that to get recorded.
Thank you. Next comes council comments. I'll declare that public hearing is closed at 6:18 p.m. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
There's no
We
resolution.
don't have one to approve, do we? No. Sorry. All right. On to item H, and that's ordinances. What's our first one of those?
Ordinance 15054 to repeal Chapter 152 Housing Code of the Municipal Code of the City of Marshalltown, Iowa, and to adopt by reference the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code with amendments, third reading.
So move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion up here? Discussion out there? Third readings usually go pretty fast, don't they? Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Carried. On to the next ordinance then.
Ordinance 15055 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 70, General Provisions to provide regulations for automated traffic enforcement, second reading.
For approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion up here?
Your Honor, since the last vote on the first reading, I've gotten 100% of the contact that I've had from the residents. I take that back, 99.9%. I had one person call me in favor. Everybody else is against this, so I'll be changing my vote to no tonight. Thank you, Your Honor.
My math is right. That took 1,000 calls. Any other comments up
Your
here?
Honor,
Yes.
just to pile on top of that, same thing that I've heard people, they're just becoming aware that we're looking into passing this. I just warn my fellow council members here that it's going to be very unpopular once people start getting tickets. I'm also afraid it will leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths that traverse through Marshalltown. Yes, they're speeding, they get a ticket, but I guess where they're never coming back again, Marshalltown. So that's all I got to say.
Other council comments?
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
So last weekend, my wife's family had Christmas, and so we went through 6 communities, and I saw 4 of those 6 had the Gatso, Senso, or other way around units, very visible, and the other 2 communities had fixed cameras too. So this isn't uncharted territory. This is the direction a lot of communities are going to address what Chief Tepper says is the single largest complaint he receives on a daily basis.
Other council comments?
Yes, Your Honor. At work, I've had talks with several people, and after explaining the whole thing, they kind of come around. It's not legal to speed in town, you know. It never has been, right? So you get a ticket when you speed, correct? That's kind of what happens, you know. We've had tragedies here in this town that's caused by excess speed here, and it needs to stop. And it's not just a Marshalltown problem. It really isn't. It's a nationwide problem. I just read an article the other day about how much anxiety over the last 2 years people are dealing with. And that comes out in all kinds of different ways. But we're down 7 police officers. We can't be everywhere. Stop at stop signs and at stoplights. Don't speed. It's not that hard to do. It's really not. And I think that the citizens of Marshalltown are smart enough to figure that out.
Other council comments? Open it to the public.
Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue. I wasn't going to speak, but I am going to. The camera will take the picture. I heard the police officer, when he asked for the cameras, state 75% of the tickets won't be paid. I agree. We need to all do the speed limit. And I agree the police officers can't be everywhere. But we can't put a camera on every intersection everywhere. We might as well go back to stop signs on all 4 corners and just not worry about anything. Because the police officer that brought this to the council said 75% of the tickets aren't going to be paid. So what good are the cameras? That's my comment. I agree. We need to follow the speed limits. We could put speed bumps everywhere. Sleeping policemen. We could do something such as that. But I drive around this town. I have lived here 73 years. And we're not going to control these ones that are going 45 and 50 on Highway 14 on Center Street. They're going to just zip right through here. That's enough of my comment.
Anyone else?
Your Honor, could we ask for a clarification on the ticket payment?
We could do that.
Thank you. Chris Jones, Captain of Operations for the Police Department. I do want to apologize for the confusion. I did receive some community feedback about the percentages of tickets that are going to be paid and not paid. Across the state, depending on what community and their strategy in providing a collections plan, it starts about 50% compliance once the program starts. Depending on how we progress with collections, we can get that number up to 75 to 85% compliance. Our hope is, at the beginning, we'll have a community understanding that the tickets will be followed up by the police department, and that we'll reach out to those individuals that aren't paying their fines and work out a system to pay for those violations. So hopefully, within time, we could look at maybe 75% of those tickets being paid, which is comparable to our parking citations or any other municipal infractions that we have.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Are we still planning on having an officer look at each ticket that's being sent out?
Yes, that is a part of the process. We'll have a set of officers that will be responsible for going through the tickets. The captain of operations will be me at the time, will be able to look at appeals of people that want to essentially contest a ticket. And then I will also be in charge of forwarding those through municipal infraction through a court process with agreement of the person that's in violation. One of the other things that's came up several times within the last week is, what happens when a vehicle owner is given the citation, but another person was driving the vehicle, whether it's a work vehicle or somebody else has borrowed a car. How we work with those is you can provide a letter within 30 days once you've received that as the vehicle owner, and identify the driver. If the driver is willing to come forward, we can make a transition in the back office portion of the software to make that person responsible. We can do that either in person or through notary. We can make those arrangements to make those people responsible. Now, in cases where the owner cannot bring that person forward, the owner would be responsible for that citation.
Your Honor, I have a question for Captain Jones, if I may.
Ask it.
Hey, Chris, so towns of our size, and if we were doing the 3 cameras, have they given you an idea about an average that this, across the board? You said they're in several cities. So is there an average of how many tickets this will generate a month? And then taking 50% of those to court, I'm assuming it's like when you guys write a ticket, if somebody contests it, your officer has a court date then. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So is this the same, that an officer would have to go to court?
Yes, I would follow through with the person that wanted to contest it to end up going to court to provide the evidence.
Okay, so if 50% are not paid, so 50% are going to go to court because we're going to follow up.
Right.
How much time are we going to take officers off the street just to go collect these tickets?
Well, officers, it would actually just be the captain of operations that would bring that forward. So I would be the assigning authority at this time to provide that and put that through the municipal infraction process. So there isn't any other staff that's involved other than the people that are approving that, but I would actually be bringing it forward.
And then have they given you an idea what the 3 cameras? I realize there's a million factors, but there's got to be a number out there per camera.
On average, in the statistics that I looked at, and many of the communities are using a similar program, it runs about $50,000 per camera per year.
Oh, for generating the tickets?
For generating
How many
tickets.
tickets is that, though?
I don't know for sure. I'd have to look.
Thanks, sir.
Yep,
Thanks, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Any other council comments or questions? Otherwise, I think it's open to the public now.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. Former officer of the Marshalltown Police Department has asked me to communicate that he does not think these cameras are legal. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. The cameras are legal. There's no doubt about that. The cameras are legal. Our goal with the camera program is to write 0 tickets. I don't want to write any tickets with these cameras. People just need to slow down. Obey the law. We don't want to write tickets. So this is an important public safety issue, and we can't be everywhere at once. And traffic enforcement remains the #1 complaint that I hear about every day. So again, we don't want to write tickets. The goal is to write 0 tickets. In fact, we will tell you where the cameras are. We will be very public about that. We're not going to hide them. We're not going to try to trick anybody. People will know where the cameras are. If they choose to speed, they're going to get a ticket. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions by the council or public? Well, the chief's got the microphone. Okay.
Okay, just real quick.
No, I'm sorry, ma'am. You can't talk if you're sitting out there because this is recorded. If you need to talk, you have to come back up to the microphone. I typically have the 3-minute limit, so keep it short.
Sure, no problem. Doris Kinnick, 2020 Catalina Place. So I was just asking the chief, so the cameras are mobile? Is that correct?
Yes, we're talking about mobile, and we're also discussing the potential for fixed sites as well. But again, we will tell people where the cameras are. So the Des Moines Police Department does this very effectively, and we'll copy them. We'll use our social media and we'll use our website to tell people at the beginning of the week, hey, this is where the cameras are going to be. We will make sure that everybody knows where they are. I don't know what else I can do at this point. We're going to be as fair as possible. We don't do that when we're running radar. We don't tell you where our cops are going to set up. We will tell you where the cameras are, and we'll make sure that people have a fair opportunity to obey the law. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next topic. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I guess we do, don't we?
Walker?
Yes.
Oop?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
No.
Thompson?
No.
Okay, that did carry. On to the next item.
First discussion item is agreement for paratransit services with People Rides, Region 6.
Floor is open for motion to approve that ordinance. Did I skip over? I did.
We're on discussion now, the first discussion.
Sorry. Scroll up here. Okay. Floor is open for discussion.
Good evening,
Yep.
Heather Thomas, Public Works. The item in front of you tonight is just discussion on the paratransit agreement and some changes we're proposing to make. Our current agreement expires in June of this upcoming year. We're in the process of doing budgets, so is People Rides in Region 6. So we just wanted to bring those changes to you now so we can get a concurrence on which direction we proceed as we go budgeting-wise. The agreements in front of you, we have both the existing agreement and the proposed new agreement. There's two main changes. Right now, the existing agreement is based on a $40 an hour compensation from the city to Region 6 or People Rides. That is less the fee, the fare, $2 a ride. We are proposing to switch to $25 a ride. The other thing we're proposing is to allow more paratransit eligible riders. So we would like to open that up by allowing them to go into nursing homes and non-private facilities to pick up ridership in those cases. Essentially, this would be roughly a 17.4% increase if you look at the last 6 months of data. Right now, we're paying about $21.30 per ride, and we're increasing to $25 per ride. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any council questions? Public questions or comments? Okay. Thank you.
For this one, we would be looking for a motion to bring the paratransit agreement forward to the December 27th meeting. I would also like to point out that we do have Marty Wymore here from Region 6 if there are any questions about how those paratransit services actually operate.
I'd like to hear a review anyway.
So, Marty Wymore with Region 6 Resource Partners and our public transit division, People Rides, here in Marshalltown. So, People Rides is our regional transit system, and we serve Hardin, Marshall, Poweshiek, and Tama counties. Here in Marshalltown, since Marshalltown has a fixed route service, we contract for services with the city of Marshalltown here within the city. The city of Marshalltown is required to provide complimentary paratransit services, and those services were started back in 1991. And initially for, I guess, basically 91 up until now, the city offered kind of curb-to-curb service with the paratransit service to both keep the cost low and reduce the city liability. Meaning kind of some concern about falls. Back in 2015, the federal rules changed where now the federal government requires door-to-door service with paratransit service. It doesn't require through-the-door service. Way back in 91, the same time frame as when paratransit service was started, we started what's sometimes referred to as a caravan service here in Marshalltown. That service started with some hospital funding, and we provided door-to-door service from 91 up to current with that. It didn't require any paratransit application, and we provided rides not only in Marshalltown but in the region around here to doctors and services associated with the hospital. That service and many of the same principles that we operate under applies still today, even though the hospital discontinued their funding in large part in 2010. So the caravan service has helped the city in many ways keep the paratransit cost as low as possible for many, many years. Up until 2019, we had sufficient other revenues to support the cost of our operations. But in 2018, some of the other funding sources we have changed some of their rules. So in 2019, we lost $140,000. So this agreement shifts ride responsibility under the paratransit agreement to City of Marshalltown for many rides. It also requires door-to-door rides to be compliant with the federal rules. I guess nursing homes, we currently provide service to those facilities, and this agreement talks about through the door service for nursing homes. Those would be Acura, Southridge, and Grandview. We don't have rides at the other facilities because they have their own vehicles. Two of these three nursing homes also have their own vehicles currently. We will continue to provide Medicaid rides here within the city and count those statistics. And riders that aren't currently approved by either Medicaid or paratransit will be denied service. And again, that will be a change from this caravan service we have that started back in 91. And then you have the funding details and some of that. So I can try to answer any questions you may have at this point.
I've got some questions, Your Honor. So in the memo, it's listed at about $50,000 annually that it will cost the city, where today, what is the budget impact? Is this a $50,000 increase over what we're paying today?
I'll start out on this one. Heather can add in. Yes, by adding more riders, we are looking to increase that cost. Our costs for transit services are part of our tax levy. We can levy up to 95 cents per thousand. I think at this last year we were at 26 cents. And so that is, we are projecting a cost increase. It'll take, I think, 2 years before we'll see the rider miles and the rider numbers start to kick in more federal and state funding to be able to decrease that tax request.
And then also, what happens if we don't do this?
Yeah, I'll answer both of those questions. So just looking at the last two statements we've received from People Ride, so that would be April to September of this year. We're at about 1,159 trips. At $2,130 as an average cost, we're looking at about $50,000 as our current cost. At that 17.4% increase to go to the $25 a ride, that's roughly $10,000. So that piece of just the increase from the $40 an hour to $25 a ride is about a $10,000 swing. The unknown factor is how many more rides are going to become paratransit eligible. In the estimate that Marty has provided on the next discussion item, that could potentially increase to 5,500 annual rides. Right now, we're closer to 2,500 annual rides. That would increase that budget to 126,000. So that could be a $75,000 increase. Regardless, we still are in support of proceeding this way. Performing paratransit in-house right now is not feasible from a financial or an employee standpoint. We did look at the break-even point, and I think our break-even point is still slightly above that $126,000 mark that we would be looking at the $5,500 or 5,500 ride projection. Second question, what happens if we don't do this? It would jeopardize our current agreements with FAA and, or not FAA, the federal and state DOT. Providing paratransit services is a requirement under our grant agreements that we have with them.
Your Honor. Heather, don't run off. May I? Heather, is there an education part of this package? Because I got to believe some people are eligible for paratransit but could ride the fixed routes.
Absolutely.
And it is probably both ways. There's probably people riding the fixed routes that really would be eligible for this, but so is there a way, I mean, with all three different things, the fixed routes, paratransit, non-paratransit, are we getting the right services to the right people? I mean, is there an education part of this?
Yeah, I would say both city staff in Region 6 made a push, I believe it was in early 2021, to provide additional services, more of the paratransit. So those who weren't able to use fixed routes, whether that was mental, physical, geographical reasons, we provided them that information, how to become paratransit eligible. We provided them the hand-holding to do so, assistance with applications, and trying to give them all of the opportunity to become paratransit eligible. That allows them to get those rides at a cost of $2 per ride for those users. And we would be happy to continue doing that to provide that education component to the public.
You may go ahead.
So if we have an elderly person that can't or shouldn't drive, they have to get to a fixed point, correct?
If they want to provide a fixed route service. However, if they have a physical limitation, a geographical limitation, a mental limitation that doesn't allow them to use the fixed route, we can get them paratransit certified, and they would be able to use more of that door-to-door caravan service that Marty's referred to.
I'm just kind of concerned about, it sounds good when we're sending all this information to people and everything like that, but with the elderly people, what they're used to and what they can do, and maybe they shouldn't drive or can't drive or physically be able to get a ride. Basically, the door-to-door seems much better for them.
Right, and as long as they're willing and able, and with our assistance, with Region 6 assistance, to provide that paratransit application, they've got that opportunity. If they choose not to do that paperwork, there is a cab service also in Marshalltown available to them. But we think we have, between the fixed route, the paratransit, and other private cab services, we think we've got them covered as far as their transportation needs go.
Other council comments or questions? Further public discussion?
So, Your Honor, the staff needs direction to move forward with this? Okay, so I would direct staff, make a motion to direct staff to bring back, you need a resolution to come back, right? Bring back a resolution with this change.
Second.
Was that clear enough for you? Okay.
Roll call?
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Hoop?
No.
Okay, that one carried. Staff has direction. On to the next discussion item.
Request for funding for people rides, non-paratransit riders.
I'll just give a quick introduction to this and then have Marty stand up and kind of explain a little bit more. Within the memo, there is a personal pay group, or a group that really is not paratransit eligible that we're talking about. And Region 6 as a board has been discussing how to continue to get funding to help support riders who don't kind of have another support for them. And so that is why Marty is here tonight, and that is the group that he's looking to make a request for, not the paratransit. Paratransit is completely separate.
Your Honor, before Marty talks, I just want another point of clarification, if I may. By law, the paratransit, we either have to do it ourselves or contract it out. The non-paratransit, we're not obligated. The city has been doing that, or paying a portion of that?
No, this has always been borne by Region 6, their funding sources, and then the user fees.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Your Honor, for the indulgence there.
Sure. Marty?
Marty Wymore again with Region 6 Resource Partners and People Rides. So currently, I'm estimating roughly 1,000 rides per year that we've currently provide that fall outside of the boundaries of the paratransit service. And these kind of go back to some of that history with the caravan service here in Marshalltown. So I have a handful of categories here of rides that, again, don't fall into paratransit. So paratransit requires a multi-page application that we mail out to clients here in Marshalltown. Some of those clients, like probably most paperwork, they don't complete that paperwork and send it back in to us. So we have that group of riders that is counted in that 1,000 rides. We have some riders that aren't, I guess, regular users. And if they don't ride with us on a regular basis, their motivation for filling out paratransit applications and other details isn't real high. Likewise, going back to 30 years ago when we started our caravan service here in town for medical rides, we have people today that are sick with various illnesses, whether that's flu or COVID or something else, and aren't feeling good and don't want to ride on a fixed route bus. They want to have something similar to a Uber service, which is the type of service we operate. So that's another group of individuals. We've historically had a lot of people either at the hospital where they were an inpatient, or they showed up at the ER and they may not drive or different things, and we get called by the hospital staff to do discharges from different facilities at those places to take those rides. And we also have another category of people, probably not a large group, but they live on the fixed route service. And the fixed route application for paratransit service, if they live on that fixed route, there has to be an incredibly strong argument to provide paratransit service for them. So that's another small group of people that fit into this category. So for these rides, currently we provide these rides at $7 a ride. And I guess that rate starting July 1st would need to go up to at least $15 a ride for most of these trips. That would be if People Rides is counting these statistics. So I guess the question here is whether we have authority, for one, to provide these type of rides. And the second question would be is, does the city want to subsidize these rides within the city of Marshalltown? And I can try to answer any questions.
Are there any questions up here?
That one question, Your Honor. I mean, is there any means testing at all, or are these truly destitute people who don't really have any other options?
We don't do any needs testing questions for this group.
So the question is either we subsidize it or you have to raise the rates on them.
Well, there's three questions. One, I guess, do you even authorize these trips within the city of Marshalltown? Is the only option for these individuals to take fixed route if they're not paratransit approved? That would be one question. The second question is, do you care to subsidize these trips at all? Again, from $15 a ride to something lower.
Having never used a cab in this town, I have no idea what that rate might be, but it might weigh into the decision making up here. Do any of you up here have an idea what it takes to get from a hospital to a home in northeast or northwest Marshalltown?
Again, the challenge also to keep in mind is many of our riders are on wheelchairs, So I would say probably 50% of our ridership is in a wheelchair. So the taxi has no basis of accommodating them currently.
One thing to add on to that, if they are in a wheelchair, they are paratransit eligible, and so that would be a situation where we would look to have them qualify for paratransit because they clearly have a physical disability that would prevent them from using the fixed route service.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Marty, why would somebody not be eligible for the paratransit? Because you said these non-paratransits.
These may be sporadic trips. Again, they may only need one trip in a year. And again, if they only need one trip in a year, I doubt that they're going to complete the multi-page paratransit application.
Well, who's subsidizing this right now? Obviously, you're not breaking even.
Currently, I guess Region 6 covers 40% of the operating cost of every service we operate. The other 60% is covered from other sources. Right now, we're using cash on hand to cover some of that cost.
When you say Region 6, it's a 4-county area, correct?
Right.
So who is funding it? Who in that 4-county area?
Again, for the last, since the pandemic started, we've had special pandemic funds to cover our cost. And again, the year we had negative spending, we had cash on hand that covered that cost. So we're really talking about the new year starting July 1st of 23.
How many rides are we talking here?
1,000 rides is what I'm estimating.
In dealing with some new families here, I'll tell you what, transportation is one of the biggest problems. It really is. So it kind of surprised me. I don't want to see somebody that doesn't have a way to get to a hospital or a supermarket or a doctor or something like that, even if it is really intermittent.
Your Honor, I think that for me, we discussed the NEMT program, non-emergency medical transportation, at the last meeting. So if they're financially needy and qualify for Medicaid, there would be another program that could help them get to the doctor or the hospital. If I'm understanding this correctly, I think that my consideration would be that I'm not against the program. If someone says, "Hey, this is my one-off or two-off a year, and I need transportation, and I'm willing to pay the $15," that's great. But I don't, especially to Councilman Schneider's question, if we're not really assessing financial need, it seems difficult to subsidize.
Your Honor, if I may. And I'm kind of that, it's like, if we stop doing this, if you stop doing this, I mean, at least for our city, would the ridership pick up enough for the private cab company where they would get a vehicle that would support wheelchairs? I mean, does that cab company even run? I mean, again, here's this public-private sector, and I understand the need, but I got to believe a majority of these 1,000 people could ride paratransit if they just did the paperwork, and you said there's roadblocks to that, but I see both sides. I'm struggling with this one, to be honest with you.
I'd be interested in the feedback from the drivers in terms of how it's working, if they feel like it's being abused or not, or if it works well enough and they can determine whether it makes sense to require somebody to fill out a multi-page form or not, or just let it pass for a ride or two.
Your Honor, one more question. So just to be clear, if we don't subsidize this, will their option for transit go away, or can they just personally pay the $15?
Again, with the current agreement, we're not authorized to provide these rides here in Marshalltown at $15 a ride, so I guess we would need the agreement to specifically say we can provide these rides at $15 a ride. And again, I would assume we'll have some takers and maybe not others.
So to just build on what Marty is saying there, there is a clause in that paratransit agreement in the current one, as well as in the draft that we had just discussed, that says that if anybody is not paratransit eligible, they should be referred to the city's fixed route system. And so that has been language that has been in existence. We have not been enforcing it as sort of a Region 6, we will not, you can't do this type of thing. But this is something that we're looking at moving forward is that is language that is there for a specific reason, because we already invest taxpayer dollars literally from the tax levy into our fixed route system. And so what's being provided by Region 6 is kind of direct competition to the taxpayer funded service. And so that language is there. It's been, like I said, it's been there for the duration of the 4.5 years of the agreement that's currently in place, and it's in the agreement that's moving forward.
Your Honor. So, Marty, what's your deadline? You said this is for next year's contract, July, right? So what's your deadline? I mean, can you get us some more feedback on these users? I mean, why are they using it? Are they using it just because it's there and it's cheap and I can call a cab and basically I can call you as a cab and get a trip to the grocery store? I mean, what are the real, I guess for lack of a better word, a needs assessment? And then if you can do that, and what would be your drop dead date for us to make a decision on this?
I guess my drop dead date would be probably May of this coming year, 23, so that we have time to make any changes for July 1st.
And are you staffed to make a needs assessment of these riders or not?
I'm not sure what that looks like. Again, are we just asking them a couple questions? Again, obviously our computer software has capability to do some evaluation, but again, what does that really look like?
So one of the pieces of data that I think is important to know, and we don't have it yet, is it's 1,000 rides, not 1,000 riders. So how many riders are making up the 1,000 rides, and have those individuals been sent a paratransit agreement, and have they returned it or not? And so we've been, as a city, we've been completely supportive of this is a group we don't want to leave hanging. We do believe that there are some paratransit qualified riders in this, and so we've offered to work with Region 6 any way possible to figure out, how many people are we really talking about that we need to get an application into their hands and explain the need for the application, and to see if they are eligible or not.
Exactly. That would actually benefit them. So that would be every time going to the grocery store and not just the one ride home from the hospital after they fall. I mean, I got to believe that this paperwork is hugely advantageous to them.
Again, we've mailed paratransit applications to all these riders. Again, I guess if it's just that some riders aren't motivated to return it, I guess I don't know how to say it anything differently.
My thoughts on this is we need to delay this, and we need more information to see what segment of the population is really being affected by this.
Other council comments?
I agree with Gary.
Okay. Anybody else up here? I do see a hand up in the public, so unless anybody else up here wants to speak, microphone's open for the public comment.
Lee Botter, 401 Orchard Drive. As the owner of Botter Consulting, what we do for a living is we look at annual enrollment periods, open enrollment periods with over and under 65 individuals. I commonly hear, can't get to my doctor, can't get to the grocery store, and I agree with Jessica, we definitely need to know how many numbers of that 1,000. We need the means assessment. the education program that Councilman Thompson brought up, I guess the question that I would pose, or the challenge, I guess, that I would give would be working with others in the community, because to be candid, I've done this for a really long time. I hate to say this, 40 years that I've been doing insurance, but I didn't realize the differences here. And if you reach out to those in the community that are dealing with folks, it could be the faith community that can help fill out applications if necessary. It could be the insurance agents that can help do this, because I get it commonly, and I have people walk in all the time. I don't get this paperwork that they sent me. Can you please help me? So that would be part of the educational component that I would give a challenge to council to think about, and Marty to think about.
Thank you. Yep.
Doris Kinnick, 2020 Catalina Place. I know firsthand about People Rides and the great job that Marty and his group do. My son has taken part in the paratransport, not too much anymore, but I also know firsthand that the people that are affected by this are the older community members, and also people who are trying to get to a job and they don't have transportation. So that's another thing that is available through Region 6 and People Rides. I just want to let you know about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Does staff need any further direction than kind of the consensus?
If there is a desire to delay this until we can get more information from Region 6, we can certainly do that.
I think that's the consensus by watching the heads shaking up here. And then, it'd be helpful. We know that the city staff and Marty Weimar and his staff have been working together for many years, and we've got a really good transportation system with both entities working. And so having a kind of a joint recommendation from both would be helpful to the people that take votes up here. But more data would probably be good.
Can I make one more comment quick?
You may.
Is there any legal way that we can incentivize people to fill out these applications? I mean, spend some money trying to get them to do the right thing.
I don't know if there's a legal way, but really, truly, it becomes back to the penalty of the individual. If they're paratransit eligible, it's $2 per ride. If they are riding as a personal pay, it's $15 per ride. There's a financial incentive for somebody to fill out the application, and I don't know that that's been probably communicated in the past that figures would be changing or that there is an alternative.
I'd imagine in non-emergency situations, the other alternative is to say, I can't give you that ride today unless you fill out the papers.
Yeah, a little tough love.
Yeah. And then if everybody else has done too, I have defended 2 cases in paratransit matters where people have been injured in those cases. There's insurance that covers that, but it isn't a risk-free thing to do for people. And then to answer the question about the cab companies, there was a threatened lawsuit. I don't know that it ever happened, by one of the cab companies that was declining to take people that probably qualified for the wheelchair accessible rides. And so that's not an easy one if you're a cab company to handle either. And a lot of liability attaches to that too. Okay, well, I think the staff has direction on that one. Let's go on to the draft of the strategic plan. Thanks, Marty.
Yes, Your Honor. I gave a printed copy of this that I've made just some fairly minor tweaks to in the last 2 weeks, but we have kind of a draft here to go through. Let me see if I can get this to work. Our strategies, which we talked about, are still the same. What I have done is kind of taken the high-level items and made them strategies, not actions, moving forward here. And really with strategy 1, focusing on infrastructure needed for development to happen, housing opportunities at all levels, redevelopment of existing buildings, and downtown redevelopment, as well as enhancing Lynn Creek District and the 13th Street District. And so I've got some text underneath And so what you won't see are specific actions, and I think that's where me and my team come in terms of what we would be developing to bring back to you on a quarterly basis as an update. When we get to strategy 2, again, looking at the attractiveness of the entrances to the community, we had quite a bit of discussion about that on November 1st, and so I called that out specifically, knowing there's a multitude of actions that could occur under there. Looking for public art and city projects, reducing blight and promoting safety in our neighborhoods, and identifying public projects where aesthetics can be enhanced through functional improvements, as well as then this has always been that goal of enhancing our public image also includes communication. And so working with communicating with citizens to better promote the community. Strategy 3 has been that one where it's more of a how do we look at our own house before we look at outside our own house. And so looking at planning and funding for improvements related to the city's infrastructure and buildings, reviewing our policies, procedures, plans, ordinances, programs, and services for updates and efficiencies, which is something that I would say we've done quite a bit of here in this last year and will continue to do. And then really focusing on our employees as that kind of third strategy. And then, and then the final one here is strategy 4, which is the one where we partner with just about anybody who is looking to do anything to improve the quality of life in Marshalltown. In our session, we talked a lot about homelessness and mental health and needing to provide some context to that for the City Council. Facilitating relationships for recreational opportunities, knowing that we are not the only recreational provider here in the community, and looking at what those relationships look like. Partnering with Trails Inc. for the building of the Iowa River's Edge Trail, and then utilizing the Arts and Culture Master Plan to partner with the Arts and Culture Alliance on projects and initiatives. So these are the high-level strategies. As I said, you know, the level of importance and sort of action that will be put on those, there's going to be some things that come up as an opportunity that we will look to work with, but then there will, of course, be others that we will start putting together some plans for how we move forward.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I actually like this better than the stoplight form we've been using for years. You know, the red, yellow, green. Plus, you're just filling it with tasks, you know, that just get checked off, and you know, I like this. And in this, in combination with the memos that you and your staff do, that shows how they relate back to these strategies. You know, I think those two tools, it's a good path. It was time to retire the stoplight diagram.
Stoplight will be retired.
Should we talk about a roundabout? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Don't get them started.
I get growly when I haven't eaten supper. All right. Any staff direction on that one? Other council comments or public comment on it? Okay. Well, back to automated traffic.
Just to clarify, I will bring this to the next council meeting on a resolution for adoption.
Okay. That works. And then on to the accounting for automated traffic enforcement proceeds.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So just wanted to, since budget season is coming here, and we need to figure out how to plug in these numbers for the automated traffic enforcement proceeds, wanted to kind of go over with you. So if you recall, in the budget system, you have different categories. You have the general fund, you have special revenue fund, capitals, debt service, enterprise funds. This is really a general fund activity. The reason it's not a special revenue fund is that there's no outside restriction by the legislature, a donor, a grantee, or anything like that. So it's really in the general fund. So we would code it to Fund 001. So right now, the police department, their function is 1010, and that's how we showed it in the budget system. If you wanted to track this activity separately, we could set up a new function, which would be 1011, 10011. So I just need some guidance on what you want to see. If you want to see that stick out, then I'd put it in 1011. If it's just part of the regular operations of the police department, I'd leave it in 1010.
I would move that we keep it as separate as described.
Is there a second to that motion? We can have discussion after there is a second or not.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion about that one?
Yes, Your Honor. So Diana, would the expenses for the court costs show up in the same account then? I mean, this
The
one
same
account-
function.
Yeah, the same, yeah, it would be.
The revenues come in, the expense goes back out.
Okay, thank you.
Other council comments? Public? Roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Ladyhoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Okay. Staff has direction on that one. Discussion number 5, year-end inflationary payment proposal.
Yes, Your Honor. I requested that this be put on the agenda and had Jessica work up a sheet for you. Our city staff has been through tornadoes, derechos, pandemics, and lately the inflationary pressures quite a bit. We like to tell them, boy, you've been doing a great job, you know, good job. But over the last year, the inflationary pressures have gotten to them pretty good. I know that I believe it was last year my employer gave us a bump. And I'd like to point out that this is not a yearly thing. I think we're in unusual times. I know from my own family's perspective, budgeting is a little bit tighter. So I think for once that what we do is we take local option sales tax and we give our employees a $1,000 year-end bonus, I guess. This is a one-time thing. I think the part-time people that have been so loyal also deserve something. I believe Jessica has it at $500, and I don't have a problem with that. I would entertain anybody else's discussion on this.
Discussion up here first.
So, Your Honor, am I discussing giving myself $500 then?
We would exclude council members if you would have that direction to exclude elected officials.
I would go a step further. If we proceed with this, I would exclude staff members that make more than a specific dollar figure also. If this goes through, I guess I would like the council to at least look that their pain wasn't as great as somebody else's pain.
Other comments up here at the council dais?
I'm fine striking council and mayor from that for sure. I'd also want to put a stipulation that if anybody resigns before 12/31, because they could still work here, that they're not eligible. Oh, I thought it was just if they were still employed, but if they've resigned effective January 1st, they'd still get it. But I don't know if that'll even happen. Yeah, and inflation's real. I think this is probably a good meaningful gesture.
Other council comment? Public? Should we put that in a formal motion and get a second and vote
Your
on
Honor,
it?
I'd make a motion that we approve the way it's written with council and mayor not getting any kind of bonus or anything. We have actually, our employees make us look better than sometimes I think we are, so I think we're pretty good the way we are.
Second.
Roll call.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Kell,
Yes.
Ladyhoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
Your Honor, if I if I may.
You may.
Thank you for passing that. I do think, in my own opinion, I do believe that coming up in the coming months as the budget numbers firm up, I do believe that we're going to have to sit down and talk with the police chief, the management, and probably the union of the police department. I do believe that we're down about as far as we ever want to go, and with what other towns are offering, I think we're going to need to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, being seven down is a new one for me in the last 10 years on the council, truly. And then in terms of the pay for council and mayors, I see Des Moines looking at pay increases. I was surprised at low as they were given the size of the city, especially for the mayor, because the Cedar Falls mayor is at about 35,000 higher than the mayor, but they do the same formula there where it's half of the mayor's stipend is typically going to the council.
I know that Omaha is down 100 police officers, and they're starting to kind of panic.
Wow. Okay. Very good. Let's go on to the next one. Just switch this over. That is, lost track of where I am on my little iPad.
Number 6, Your Honor, discussion, an RFP recommendation for non-union compensation survey.
There you go. Thank you.
Jill Petermeyer wasn't able to be here tonight to talk about this, but we did go ahead and issue a request for proposal where we received 7 different responses that had a wide-ranging cost to them. We are recommending the lowest one. The next page of this memo, or this memo packet, actually includes the bid tabulation. And so we're recommending that if you would like to move forward, we would go forward with GovHR out of Northbrook, Illinois, as they have presented that they can do the scope of work for $23,400. What's kind of been, I think, removed from this is really looking at, they did assign a price to each aspect. They did say that if we want individual job descriptions reviewed, that would be an additional $200 per job description. We don't see that that is something that needs to happen. And so if this is something you would like to move forward with, we would recommend the proposal from GovHR at $23,400.
Discussion on that one.
Your Honor. So how many, this is for what, non-bargaining?
Correct. This is for non-bargaining employees, which includes 98 employees in 63 different positions.
That was my next question. How many employees? So 98? So, Your Honor, why don't we just give the $238 per employee rather than spend the $23,400?
So my response to that would be that there definitely are some compression issues that we have that need to be resolved that are going to likely result in a complete reorganization of it, probably the top end of the pay scale, and that is something that we're looking for some outside help to complete.
I do have a question about this. And my only question is timing. Because everything is so fluid out there right now, a lot of people are making big moves and this and that with the cities. Will they be able to get solid enough information that we can really hang our hat on?
Yes, I think they'll be able to do that. Jill has actually completed the salary survey that they send out for other clients, and so it's a fairly easy one. She thinks that they probably see more responsiveness just based on the ease of their survey. They are proposing a 3 to 4 month time frame, so it's not something that we will have for budget. It would be something that we would be talking about after budget, and ultimately, once you have the results, it's a discussion about if you implement, and if you do implement, how you do that over time.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Jessica, can you give us an idea what our current salary structure is based in or on, timing-wise, or when the last time this was done?
I think I was going to say, I know I saved an email from Jill earlier today because she had emailed me some of this. The last study was done in 2008, and at that point, once they had the results to bring everybody up to the minimums, they scaled that over a 3-year period.
So where does performance reviews factor into this?
Our policy for non-bargaining employees is that on their performance reviews, they do not get a step increase unless they score a 3.0 out of a 6 total or higher on that. If they score a 3.0 or higher, then that is when they are basically bumped up a step. We do have in that, I don't know the number here, but in that 98 employees, I would say we probably have at least a quarter who are completely capped out at this point, and it's the cost of living adjustment that is the annual salary increase.
Your Honor? And this is out of the capabilities of the HR director performing herself at her salary?
Yes, so this would take 3 to 4 months for a consultant to do, and so you're probably talking about a much extended time frame for one staff person to do while also managing the other HR work of posting, benefits management, and handling everything else that comes her way on a regular basis.
So realistically, we wouldn't even be looking at implementing anything from this study until fiscal year 2025.
I think that would ultimately be up to you as the council as to when and how to implement.
Anyone else up here?
Yes, my only comment would be if they're really spending 4 months, they're not going to make very much money on us. So I might question the quality of work we get unless they have some template put together for, what a city like ours looks like, but I really don't know what to do on this one.
So we did question the low bid on this. I think that was the concern of, were they proposing that they could actually do the scope of work of what we were asking for, and they are certainly doing that. GovHR is pretty well known in government circles. They do a lot of work in Iowa. They are based out of Illinois, so they're obviously doing work in Illinois. We're not comparable, but I think they have an advantage in terms of the tool that they use and probably some of the information that they already have, and just in terms of updating it. And that's why I think we're seeing the lower prices. That it might take them 3 to 4 months, but it's not going to be constant work for that 3 to 4 months.
Looks like the top end was somewhere around 71,000.
Yes, you are correct.
Other council comments or questions before we open it to the public? Public mic is open. Need staff direction on this one, I would assume.
Yes, I'd like a motion to bring forward a contract with GovHR for the non-bargaining compensation study.
I'd put forth that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second to it?
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
No.
Hoop,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff.
Yes.
Okay. Staff has direction, that one carried. On to the next discussion item, which is, so I can get caught up here, number 7. And proposed amendments to this council manual. There's the topic.
Yes, Your Honor. So I will go ahead and get this kicked off. Please feel free to interrupt me as I kind of go through each of these, and we can bring up the manual on the monitor too to go through things. The first thing was looking at the language about the city attorney on page 7. That it basically states that the city attorney shall attend all meetings unless excused. And we've been working with Lynch Dallas and Steve for the last 4 months, and he and I have talked about how there does not seem to be a reason for him to be present virtually. This is his first time present in council chambers. We still believe that there is a reason to have him present for closed sessions, and the preference for those is to be in person for closed sessions because it's difficult virtually. And so I'm recommending that we restate the language for the city attorney that shall attend all closed session meetings of the city council, and that the mayor and city administrator shall determine other instances when the city attorney shall be required to attend a council meeting in person or virtually. And when present, the city attorney shall act as the council's parliamentarian. And so, Steve, feel free to add anything to that if you'd like.
Yeah, you haven't heard a lot from me in the time I've been here. One of the things that it's not just unique of me, but everyone at our firm, we're not big on providing advice in session and waiving the attorney-client privilege and sharing that advice with the public. In the event you all, vote to change the rules and not require the city attorney be present in every meeting, I'd urge you to, when you get your agenda and you look at that, if you have any legal questions, to share those with the mayor, share those with Jessica, and have us be able to provide a confidential memo ahead of time. I think that would probably be more beneficial to you to get our advice when we can speak freely. Than to ask in session and have us say, I'll have to provide you a memo on that. If we're discussing liability or something like that, it doesn't make it's not a best practice to share that openly where potential litigants can hear the strategy and whatnot. So all in all, I don't think it's just being here every meeting where there's not something that's identified of concern. I just don't think it's the best use of the council's resources. We certainly have plenty of work to do, and I'd rather, if you're going to pay me that, I'd rather, be doing the city's work and moving things forward. Thanks.
Other comments up here? Or did you want to continue on with the other?
I don't have a problem with that change.
So it would stand the same that, Jessica, you would be the parliamentarian by default when Steve is not in attendance.
That would be correct. And so, as Steve and I talked about that, there's probably fairly rare instances where a parliamentary issue would be something that would need to bring the meeting to a screeching halt, to either try and call him to resolve, or that by just taking the time to go through the council manual and reference that, or Robert's rules, if not referenced in the council manual, that the mayor and I would be able to handle that in session.
And it's still possible based on, we already, a couple weeks ago, had a little chat on some rules type issues. So those are to some extent foreseeable, and we can be called to address those and provide advice ahead of time on how to handle things and move forward on certain issues.
More council comment? Open to the public. Okay. We want to continue on then with the other.
Yes, the next recommendation, it's one that I've kind of heard from varying council members over varying councils for a few years, and that is that we currently have our public comment as the very last item in the meeting before we adjourn, outside of a closed session. And the recommendation would be to move the public comment to the first item after roll call. So this would mean public comment would occur before mayor and council administrator comment, and that's where it would be placed. And so just in a email that I sent out to cities, just about everybody said they had their public comment at the beginning of their meeting. So I think it would be trending more with what everybody else is kind of doing versus going off kind of stray. To build on that, there are some cities out there that they have basically that public comment period at the beginning of the meeting as the location where all public comment should be taking place outside of any public hearing that would be on the agenda. And so Waukee was one, they call it their open forum because it's to talk about anything, whether or not it's on the agenda, and that is all happening at the beginning of the meeting. And so you can kind of, I put their language in there, and I know from my days in Clinton that this is what we did. Polk City and some other cities do it. Steve has referenced that there's some additional cities that didn't respond to my email that they work with at Lynch, Dallas, who also have their rules structured this way. It would be a very big change, but there was, as I put this question out there, I had a colleague who reminded me of an old saying from the League of Cities that this council meeting it's not a public meeting, it is a business meeting held for public inspection. And that's truly what we're here to do. We're here to conduct business, whether it's to pay bills, whether it's to move things forward. And so by moving the public comment to the beginning and having it all there outside of public hearings would really keep this more as a business meeting.
Reactions?
I think I'd be fine with moving public comment to the beginning. I don't think we should restrict public comment only to that section, though. I think we should continue the way we are.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm okay with moving the public comment to the beginning, even though in my own personal experience, back when I had my store, I couldn't get here at 5:30. So I was glad the public comment was at the end, but I think people would learn if they've got something to say, an event coming or something. I think, that would work at 5:30. Since the seven of us work for the taxpayers, I do not like the open forum idea. I like that the public has a chance to be heard and for the rest of the public to hear them speak for or against each item on the agenda. So I'd be opposed to the open forum part.
Other reactions?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I think it might encourage some individuals who wouldn't like to sit through an entire meeting but may have something they want to share with the council to participate. Just one thought I have.
Sure. Anyone else? Public comment on this one? My own reaction, not seeing anybody run to the mic about it, was I have watched people sit through 2-hour, 3-hour meetings to try to talk, and by the time they finally get the opportunity, it's like, oh boy, they just want to go home, and some have gone home. So I'm tempted to see how this works, and I figure it is more convenient for people who just want to address something that isn't on the agenda to do it early on. And the drawback will be if we end up extending our meetings because we have a lot more people coming and making public comment, and we may have to revisit this in a 6-month or 1-year period if it backfires. Was kind of my thought on it.
And Your Honor, my other concern on the open forum part would be right now you grant 3 minutes per person per topic. So if there's some citizen that wants to talk on 5 resolutions or ordinances, whatever, throughout the meeting, now you're going to have them give up 15 minutes for 3 minutes in an open forum unless we change that time limit. So I don't see how the open forum works to our advantage working for the public. But again, I agree with the public. I'm okay with the public comment, not items not on the agenda being at the beginning.
Mike's still open?
Tyler Cassidy, 705 Joan Terrace. As far as public comment goes, I think it would be good to have it at the beginning of the meeting. But as far as limiting the amount of time or the access to the stand for the public as the resolutions proceed, I think that is a bad idea. I think as discussion happens up here, I think that sparks more questions, more comments, more concerns for the citizens. So at that point, I would believe that public comment may be moved, but I think I speak for a lot of people that they enjoy the public comment. I think there's some good things. I do think there's some comments that are probably a waste of time, but I think some good things come of that too. So we'll see.
Anyone else in the public wish to comment on it? Staff want direction in terms of motion and that sort of thing?
Well, so that's where I was wondering if we want to do something with these item by item or wait until the very end to go through and give direction for what comes forward.
I would suggest let's go through the whole list, then go back. Excuse me, go back and revisit each one as direction.
Okay, the next item is the consent agenda. So we haven't really been following the rules on this, and so I think there's a reason for the rules to change, or we start following those. And so there was a question earlier from Councilmember Schneider. We considered that agreement to be a routine item. And so there's a lot of things that I would say there is staff judgment as to whether or not it's a routine item that would come forward, and that's why a lot of things end up on the consent agenda. We're not actually proposing, or I'm not actually proposing that we change any of that language, but that we change the language that council members or the mayor may remove any item on the consent agenda to abstain from a vote because of a potential conflict of interest by notifying the city administrator or the mayor of the removal and the reason before the council meeting. Should a council member wish to remove an item or items for a reason other than a conflict of interest, that council member should make a motion to remove the items. The motion will then be seconded and voted on by all council members, requiring a simple majority of all present. Currently, the language says that a motion is not required, and therefore a second and a vote is not required. So looking to add in some more formality to removing things from the consent agenda.
I have a question about that, though, in terms of, say, somebody, the one that Jeff removed tonight, would he have to do the motion, get a second, and then have discussion on that before we vote? In which case it might, if it had 7 items or 6 items removed, might add a lot of time to the whole thing.
That would be the prerogative of the mayor. I believe that in multiple locations. I mean, council discussion would be certainly whether or not that requires public discussion is up to you on most of those sections.
Okay. Thanks.
Your Honor?
Reactions? Yeah.
Yeah, my thoughts on this, leave it the way we do it today. I don't think it slows down the meetings too much. Yeah, we get some pulled off, and they're still slam dunks. If you want to pull it off, I say we just follow the same procedure we are today, pull it off, and we'll just vote on it, on that one on its own.
Your Honor, I have a question and a comment. Your Honor, who decides? We don't really understand the process. That's that happens before us. That's day-to-day stuff. Who decides what's on the consent agenda? Who makes that final decision? And then who decides what's not on the consent agenda, I guess?
Staff does. I look at the agenda. It's rare for me to disagree with how they have parsed things out. Each of us gets the agenda on typically Thursday or Friday. And frankly, it would my own personal preference would be to get more notice than showing up on a Monday night at 5:30, seeing 5 things get removed, and oh my God, that's going to extend the meeting time if I haven't eaten. And I joke about that. I don't care about my eating, and I don't watch Monday Night Football either, and I take some flack for stuff like that. It would be helpful, I think, for staff and me to know they're going to be pulled and maybe why, and they can be readier for that than doing it right at the time. But I guess I'm a little reluctant, too, to have it be a motion and second and discussion just to pull an item off the agenda.
And that's my feeling on that is, I'm just going to step back and take this from a organizational chart situation. There's only one employee in the city that the 7 of us hire, and that's the city administrator. And then that person's in charge of the hiring of all the others, through herself or through department heads. She works for, or in this case, she, meaning this position, works for us. So if this person has the power to put the items on the consent agenda and then come back and tell me as an elected official that it takes 4 of us to take it off the consent agenda, I have a real problem with that. I don't know of any place I've ever worked where the employees told me how much power I had in my position as the boss or the owner. And so I second what Councilman Schneider said. Leave it the way it is. And but I'm okay with if you want to change this to set a time limit, like Saturday morning by 9 a.m. or Friday by 10 p.m. You want that? I can do that. I mean, I'm okay with changing it when you want the things pulled. I'm not okay with changing the process. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Your Honor?
Yep.
I would agree with the last comment Councilor Thompson made. Per the council manual, it is our responsibility to come to the meeting informed for robust discussion and not fact-finding. And through that, any concerns the public may have on a specific consent item, that is our opportunity to have a fruitful conversation and hear what generally the concern is or the need for clarity on that topic. So I think by moving up the submission date, or however we want to specify it, that puts an onus back on us to make sure we are communicating effectively with the community and researching the topics well ahead of the meeting.
Anyone else?
Is noon on the day of a council meeting something that is attainable?
That was what I was thinking, actually.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Agree.
And then, our practice has been whoever pulls it from the agenda, we expect that person to actually make the motion to get the discussion started, or if that person doesn't make it, when it's time for discussion, I look at Gary or I look at Mike or Dex, okay, well, how come this is off? That would give staff and me and other, if we, I don't know, we could probably share with each other what's coming off the agenda too, so that everybody would come a little bit smarter.
Your Honor, I'm all for whatever I can do to help you do your job.
Well, I've got a lot of suggestions about that, but the meeting's already run too long. Anyway, but anybody else like to comment on this one? Otherwise, let's circle back and start.
Well, we have one more,
Oh,
and
did I miss
all of
one?
this was actually born out of the strategic planning session. Gary had mentioned providing a forum for cooperating agency, or providing more of an opportunity for anybody who could fit under strategy 4 to come forward to the council. And as I looked at this, the definition for reports is discussion for cooperating agencies or private groups who are working with the council on official projects or other community initiatives. So really just a period to have an update from that time. I think one of the things, and it's actually coming out of the strategic plan, is that a work session actually ends up being something that provides a forum for people that we might not have a formal relationship with to come forward and talk about a very specific topic that we've set up. And so the example I gave you is that homelessness was something that we want to learn more about, and I'm arranging a work session for sometime in the spring to have that conversation with the partners in the community who might not necessarily be partners of ours to come forward and to have that discussion. So I'm not seeing that there's necessarily a rule change that needs to be here. If there is a desire to see more work sessions, I think that's something that we can continue to talk about coming out of the strategic plan and what our actions are from goal 4.
In Your Honor, I like the idea of what Jessica's proposed here, more work sessions to do this. If the formal council meeting is not the avenue for this, then by all means, because here's where I go, like this impact program with YSS, okay? How many organizations out there are doing something that the city could elevate that project? And we just don't know about them because they don't have a means to address us or make us aware of everything they do, with all 7 of us being able to ask them questions. So if we need to be a partner with them to get them to report, quarterly, annually, whatever, at the council, I'm okay with that. But I do applaud the idea of more work sessions where we can do some information mining, so.
Just process-wise, nothing, and maybe this gets easier if we move the public comments to the beginning, nothing would prevent an organization from coming to public comments, sharing with you about who they are and what they do. There's obviously no engaging or questions or anything, but what I would say would be a good practice after that, if there's a desire to learn more, is to say, Your Honor, I would like to direct staff to reach out to bring forward a discussion item related to this. And so there are ways that we can use the public comment period to bring things forward without having to wait for a work session.
I do think it's beneficial for us and for the public in general, too, to get annual reports, at least annual, from people like the Arts and Alliance and the Chamber and the Central Business District and those folks that we've been hearing from. There may be some others who we haven't really thought of that we ought to think about bringing on the agenda. Some of the most interesting meetings have been when we've had people come in and do demonstrations. The robotics group was the best example. I mean, that was just fascinating. Who knew those kids were doing those things? And
But Honor, couldn't you use your power to have them bring food next time, though, for some of those?
anything non-alcoholic, I think. Yeah, I probably could. Or as long as
we have to rule that out too.
As long as it doesn't cost more than $3, violate the state law for gifts to us. Okay.
So Jessica, on the first one, I would move to give staff direction that what you have proposed with the city attorney, if Lynch Dallas is okay with amending the contract we just did with them, because we signed a contract, right?
We signed a contract, but I don't believe it says that they have to be in there.
Okay, all right. So I would move that we move forward with your recommended change for the city attorney.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Walker?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Very good. By the way, I think our contract did say that I had the power to disinvite them at meetings, and so it really didn't change what we had in place. Next one.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
I'd move that we move public comment to the beginning of city council meetings as described. It's for discussion of things not listed on the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Let's call the roll on that one.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Very good. That carried
Then,
us
Your
through.
Honor, on the open forum issue, I would move that we leave it the way it is, if that even needs a motion. I'm not sure if that one, did that one? All right. I retract that, Your Honor.
Next one would be,
I would say it would be a motion to set consent items to be pulled from the consent agenda to be removed by noon, or to be notified to the mayor or city administrator by noon of the day of the council meeting.
By email, text?
Format is open, yep.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
that won't give much notice for the 12:30 meetings or noon meetings, but those are pretty rare, usually special and only one topic, so I think that makes sense. Any other comments about that one? I guess we've talked about it enough. Let's call the roll.
Hoop?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Very good, that carried, and I'm not smart enough to fashion what the motion ought to be for staff direction on reports.
I don't think there is one, Your
Okay.
Honor, so.
All right, good enough. Anything else?
Clarification on that, though, Your Honor.
Okay.
So we can bring organizations' names to you, and we can bat that around as an idea if we want to have a work session, or you will schedule work sessions from organizations that you know about?
Yeah, I think there's looking to be something relevant to a partnership with the council, and I'd recommend emailing the mayor and myself, yes.
Okay, very good. All right, we are at that time of public comment, all right? I have to read this proviso that members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda. Approach the mic, state your name and address, and limit your time to 3 minutes unless I authorize more. Direct the comments to the mayor and council as a whole. we, as mayor and councilors, shall not engage in discussion or debate on those items raised by members of the public at this time, and no action may be taken on them in order to comply with the open meetings laws. To that individual's reputation, I must have to lose some weight because I keep turning it off with my stomach or tie somehow. And that individual requests a closed session. The city of Marshalltown has an attorney-client relationship with the Village of Dallas by council resolution approved back on June 13 of 2022. And the council may, there may be council action by motion following the closed session if directed by the city's attorney. Is there a motion to go into closed session pursuant to that code section and for that reason?
Yes, Your Honor, I make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I invite the city attorney to share an opinion about the legality of going into closed session at this point.
Thank you, Your Honor. I am aware with the facts and circumstances regarding this closed session, and the city clerk has received a written request from the individual to be evaluated, and it is my opinion that the council can lawfully go into closed session pursuant to Section 21.5, subsection 1, paragraph I of the Iowa Code.
Very good. And then it is calling for a roll call vote, which I think we can take.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider.